I was a weird kid, Dan, and there would be maybe like three different thoughts that would be on a loop. And the first thought would be, I just want to look, I just want to look different. I just don't want to feel like this anymore. Actually, if I were to even really get more in touch with that voice, it was I just don't want to feel like this anymore. There are times, it's never in dark times, it's never in hard times. There are times where if you and I were out and it was the greatest weekend, my brain will, I can actually hear a voice in my head being like, what would make this even better? A glass of white wine. My journey is so typical, and it just follows the beat of every single other person I've met. There's nothing original in it. It really was fun, fun and consequences, and then nothing but consequences. And it was just slow, and it was just a slow and gradual arc. It was very painful. I was in a room with people I loved the most. They all had written these beautiful letters that almost sounded the same. Something beautiful about me. Middle paragraph, oh yeah, we know, with some sort of memory of some of my behavior. Do you remember drinking and driving with your nephews? Do you remember falling down on the airplane at your buddy's bachelor party? Do you always, we know. And that kind of hurt because I thought I had them all fooled. I didn't know they really knew. I thought, the disguise was working. And then something really sweet about me again, and then asking me to get help.
I'm Dan Metcalfe. Thank you for tuning into the Born Superhuman podcast. I'm so proud of the guests and stories that we bring to you, and I know that you'll enjoy what we have ahead. Please like, subscribe, and follow. It really makes a huge difference in our ability to continue these conversations being brought to you. And if you feel the passion behind Born Superhuman, please share it with your friends and family and leave a comment. I read every one. Now, let's get on with the show. Welcome back to Born Superhuman. So today's guest, I couldn't be more excited to have. Now, rarely do I have someone come on a show that can touch everybody. We may have experts in one area and it's not attractive to everybody to listen to. But today, the guest will be able to add value and quality to your life, no matter where you're at. Now, July 14th, 2006 was a life-changing day. But I'll let Adam explain that. Adam Jablin, thank you so much for joining us on Born Superhuman.
Dan, thank you. That was a beautiful opening. Very, very touching. Very touching. And it meant a lot to me to hear those words. And I hope people can identify and relate as you and I get to talk together and share openly. And July 14th, 2006 is really is really where that journey began. It's really where that journey began.
Yeah, it's crazy because there's certain life-changing moments that are perceived as just another day. But I look at it and say, it's a decision we make in 1 second to pull the trigger. And that
Hmm.
changes our life either for the positive or the negative. And the beautiful thing, and we're going to go back and learn about your story, is the impact that you had on that day has led to you influencing thousands upon thousands of people. And I can't wait for everybody to hear and be impacted by your words and your story. So with that being said, my first question, tell us about you growing up.
My childhood was really from a movie, Dan. I was a kid in the 80s in a place called Tenafly, New Jersey, which is about 10 minutes from the George Washington Bridge. Beautiful parents, very, very close to my grandparents. We had a family business, which was really the eldest brother. I mean, there was the family business was the hub and the center of everything. But that time in the United States, it was pre 9/11, and you could be out all day and riding your bicycles, and you were always with your friends, and you came down when when the sun was you came home when the sun was going down. It was pure freedom and a childhood really that I wish every kid could have. However, growing up, I was the fat kid. I was the heavy kid. My dad used to call me El Chubbo, not, not in a way to hurt me, just trying to be clever, trying to be sweet in his own way. There was a movie in the 80s called The Goonies. And there was this kid that used to do the chunk shuffle. He was the heavy kid, and everybody would ask me to do the chunk shuffle. And it having that mask, having that insecurity, having that fear, having that weight issue, it gave me a lot of strengths and it also took a lot away from me. The strengths it gave me was I became very charismatic. I became very outgoing because I want to be known for my personality. I want you to laugh at my jokes, laugh at me, laugh with me, and not at me. And it also hurt in quite a way where I became very insecure, very fearful, very people pleasing in a way. And that weight issue really was it's a tape that was always on in the back of my mind. I just couldn't shut it off. No matter how much fun I was having, no matter how much I was concentrating on a subject, there was always this voice letting me know what I look like, that I'm not good enough, that I'm not like everybody else, uh, that my outsides are not attractive. It was just constantly there. And also at this time, this is again in the 80s, this is the rise of Sylvester Stallone and Rocky and Arnold Schwarzenegger and Commando and Terminator. And these larger than life icons were were not just the biggest movie stars in the world, but became these models that I really started having this inner thought, which was if I could just look like that, all of my problems would go away. And of course, all of the movies, from Rocky and Rambo were very motivating and very inspiring and made you feel like you could do anything. And in 1986, we moved down from New Jersey to Boca Raton, Florida, because of the family business, where you could be in the sun every day and you could have your shirt off every day and you can go to the beach every day and I just hated it. I absolutely hated here. And I'd be the kid that goes in the pool with the t-shirt on, and new kids were teasing me while I'm just trying to find my own footing and just trying to find friends, jacked up the people pleasing. And I remember one day, and I can't remember what happened on the exterior. I just remember a feeling, which was like, that's it. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. That's it. And my mom started buying me Flex magazine and Muscle and Fitness magazine and Arnold Schwarzenegger's Encyclopedia for Bodybuilding. And they got me a Joe Eater weight set for the house. And in 4 short years, oh, I remember this too. My mom would start always grilling me chicken breast and apples. So I used to go to McDonald's twice a day. And that was out. No more 6-piece chicken McNugget, large fry, and a Coke. And we didn't have macros, and I didn't know anything about proteins and fats and carbohydrates. It wasn't that kind of education back then. At least for me, it wasn't. And but in 4 short years, I went from being the fattest kid in the class to the best built kid in the class. I went from kids going like, "Hey man, how many Oreos did you eat last night?" to like, "Yo man, how much can you bench press?" And the girls liked me. So it confirmed this thought that I had, this inner knowing, which was if I change everything on the outside, everything will be fine. It confirmed it 100%. But what it didn't fix was that insecure, scared, fearful, people pleasing class clown kid that wanted people's approval. I wanted to be accepted. Even though out of nowhere, I'm the leader now, I wanted to be accepted. And with the muscles came coordination. And with the coordination, I was able to play and hang with the older kids. And the older kids were experimenting. They were doing what kids do. And after practice, people would be passing the beer or passing a 40 and passing a blunt. And I remember it like yesterday. And it didn't feel like peer pressure at all. Not at all. They passed it. there was something cool about older kids when you're little. They have more permission. They get the girl. They get a car before you. They didn't put a gun to my head and said you have to have this. I just it was that feeling of wanting to be accepted and it looked fun. And I drank and Dan it fixed something inside of me I did not know was broken. It fixed it. Go ahead.
Let me, I want to go back for a second because this is fascinating. There's a line that Freddie Mercury sang in the song The Show Must Go On, and the line always sat with me. It said, "My makeup may be fading, but the smile still stays on." And I want to ask you, with your father teasing you and being the class clown and the entertainer and if I can say this respectfully, the fat kid that entertains, right? Which is how you see it. What was it like when you would go to bed at night, the show's over, and you'd lie there in bed? What was really going through your mind?
I was a weird kid, Dan, and there would be maybe like three different thoughts that would be on a loop. And the the first thought would be, I just want to look, I just want to look different. I just don't want to feel like this anymore. Actually, if I were to even really get more in touch with that voice, it was I just don't want to feel like this anymore. And then the second thought would be some sort of trying to make a plan of what I could do to look different. And because the one thing in the movies was it wasn't like today where we didn't have Instagram. Like I didn't know what they did. So like, do I drink raw eggs like Rocky? Like do I just do push-ups all day? It was just trying to develop some plan. And then the third thought would be something like always really deep. I don't know if you ever had like what is life all about? It would almost be some conversation with God that I wouldn't use those words when I was a kid, but I would be having these deep thoughts of like, what is this all about? Death would scare me. If I would have thoughts if my mom didn't wake up, or if my dad didn't wake up one day, how that would feel. It just really would, and then it would just go loop right back into. But if I felt differently about if I looked like Rambo, boy, things would different. Well, how could I do that? And what is this whole thing about? And it would just go into this loop until I fell asleep.
Yeah, I love it because I was the same generation, same era. Rocky Balboa was like my hero, and I transferred that into football, into soccer. He was my motivator there. But did you have a lot of trauma growing up as far as I may have seen something from you that you were worried one night your father wasn't going to come home, or you heard something he wasn't going to come back? Was there that kind of trauma that led to that fear of death and being left alone, maybe?
Um, so I could share with you that story. That was actually something that I found out after. That was a story that I found out after. One of the things I only talk about it when asked is part of the story of our family business moving was the unions at that time were extremely strong. Now you have to say we were extremely good to our employees to the fact that it was like a family and they moved down to Florida with us. But the unions have power over the workers. So if they say you're not working and you're going on strike, it doesn't matter how loyal they are to the family, how much the family takes care of them. If there's a strike, there's a strike. My grandfather had very known friends in one of the five families in New York. And again, even when I was being raised around these people, they were nothing but kind and sweet to me. It was not like the movie Goodfellas around me. It was nothing but I mean they pinch my cheeks and I give them big hugs and kisses and it was really very family oriented and very loving and they protected us. And once there was news that they stepped over New Jersey lines and they need to back out, and the strike got very, very real and very scary and with violence and fires, my grandfather got a call that my father wasn't going to make it home. It just so happens that that night there was one of the worst accidents on the George Washington Bridge. There were no cell phones. And when my father finally made it home very late at night, the uh, my grandfather made a decision that that's it, I'm out. Sold his machines for more than they were ever worth because back in the day we manufactured lace, we designed and manufactured lace, and Prince was wearing lace and Madonna was wearing lace. It was in fashion everywhere. So my grandfather did well. My father opened his own company down here, a not in Florida, non-union state, which is only 2.5 hours away from the garment district. And I would have to say the only trauma that I ever felt was um, not belonging, not belonging and wanting to know. I didn't witness violence. I didn't witness anything harsh. I wasn't told anything negative, or anything other than teasing and poking. But I think I was in the center of these storms and I just wanted to know. I just wanted to know what is going on because you could feel it. You know, you can feel it. There was something in the air that was happening that was different. But I don't even want to. You thank God you know so much about the mind. You know, I would not necessarily know if that was trauma. I but I think I just didn't know how to process feelings and how to communicate. And I somehow internalized this this feeling of just wanting to know and wanting acceptance and wanting approval and wanting to be included.
And that leads us right, Ben. Thank you for sharing that because that vulnerability, I very much respect and appreciate it because it is a big part of your story as far as growing up, the relationships. But it leads us right back into the acceptance, being part of that older group, feeling part of the big boy club now, and feeling attractive to a certain extent because other kids would want to be where you now were living. So let's jump
Yeah,
back into the older group, the girls.
yeah.
You're looking great. You're feeling really confident. We've now addressed, which we do in society, the outside. We're confident there, but we're still not the superhuman that we're born to be because there's something missing. You start with the drinking, drugs, partying, being that good looking, good physical guy that used to entertain. Now you can entertain because you've got that personality with a great body as well. Take us through that.
That's exactly what happened. I remember. So what happened was alcohol and drugs lowered the noise completely. Now, I can go later into the story or even right now to let you know that I had a spiritual relationship with alcohol and drugs. As a matter of fact, where I grew up in New Jersey, it used to the liquor store used to be called Fine Wine and Spirits, and in the Bible and in the Torah and other religious documents they would call alcohol spirits. Well, I had a spiritual relationship with this, and it turned that noise down. And when the noise went down, and I really felt like I'm with you. I didn't even realize how disassociated it was. I remember looking at my body, being like, "Whoa, hey," and remember just having this confidence and this charisma and really feeling at peace, really feeling like I am here now. And not only that, I'm the guy. I'm Superman. Yeah, I'm the guy. And it became my best friend. It just I didn't see anything wrong with it. I loved it. I was still young. My body wasn't backfiring on me. I wasn't suffering from hangovers. I was still clean inside, and it became my everything because when I drank, it allowed Superman to come out and the fat kid to just quiet the noise. And I became the first kid in high school to get a fake driver's license, which of course also came with significance and popularity. And I was the one that always was able to get the booze, but booze was my best friend. And it just outlined all and determined all of my choices. I went to Arizona State University because it was the number one party school in the country, according to Playboy and Penthouse magazine. You know what I mean? And it was. And I dominated there. And it was everything was always for the external. Everything was always to shut the noise up and for to get the external validation and rewards that I was seeking. That's what the whole thing was about.
Was I don't like using this term because I know how it can hurt people, but was the fat kid voice still inside you?
Still is. Still is. I don't necessarily believe it ever leaves. I think you rise above it. You even sometimes take care of it and you nurture it um and you know how to live with it and how to, but you don't necessarily ever get rid of it. Yeah, that voice is still there to this day. Is to, and to be totally forward and honest, there are times, it's never in dark times, it's never in hard times. There are times where if you and I were out and it was the greatest weekend, my brain will, I can actually hear a voice in my head being like, what would make this even better? A glass of white wine.
Mm.
I've recovered from many of the things we've talked about. I'm not cured, which are two totally separate things. I've recovered, but I'm not cured. So that voice that we were talking about, I can still tap into it right now.
Yeah, again, it's fascinating because there'll be people that are listening that grew up with an insecurity. Many of it will have been overweight, out of shape. The class, joke was on them, not just them being the joker, but the joke was on them. They were always the scapegoat for other people's anger or fears or distractions. And yet you overcame it to become the greatest you, someone that I know you're proud of. I see how you talk to people. I see the impact you have on people. You're so proud of what you've come through. Do you ever talk to that little boy inside you still? Do you ever embrace him and hug him? And what would you say to him so many years ago if you had the chance to sit there and have a heart to heart?
Oh, yeah, I do that. I do it probably more frequently than I actually let people in on, to be honest. And probably the ages of 6, 8, and 12 are the versions that I see in my mind's eye. Um, and I tell them it's okay. And I tell them this is normal. And you didn't know it was normal. And I tell them, you actually don't know this, but a lot of other people are feeling like this too. And I say things of what you're feeling right now is actually going to help you and help a lot of other people later. But I really try to love him and coach him and maybe even parent him and let him know that he's safe because that's I wish I had picked up on that word earlier. He never felt safe.
Mm.
And that lack of safety, that lack of not knowing is what wanted acceptance and approval. That was really the feeling. I didn't feel safe. So even the charisma and the class clown and the humor was at least I'm controlling the narrative. Because if I don't control the narrative, I don't know what can happen, what can be said to me, what will go on. So that those versions of those kids I speak to they're just very, very afraid. I mean, borderline terrified.
And what's beautiful is you had such kind, caring parents without maybe knowing the impact they were having by calling you names. And I've done that as a head coach on the Olympic Development Program. I'd call kids names. I grew up in a tough environment to a certain extent. And you think it's cool, but I didn't realize the potential damage I was doing because it was just the way we were brought up. And we're not at fault for it. We just didn't know better. But I think listening to you, any parent listening now, creating that safe place where it's not a joke, it's a human being, it's your offspring, and realizing that words hurt, even if we mean them as a joke, is so important to grab. So now you've got into the party scene.
Yeah.
You're now living the life that every kid growing up wanted to live. It was a great time of life as well. When I look back to all the different movies that you've mentioned, and for
Yeah.
me, Staying Alive and Grease and all the other things, which was
Yeah.
about living.
Yeah.
Where did it begin to go wrong?
My journey is so typical and it just follows the beat of every single other person I've met. There's nothing original in it. It really was fun, fun and consequences, and then nothing but consequences. And it was just slow and it was just a slow and gradual arc where it would start with, so what I usually tell people, especially if I'm speaking at schools, because kids like to see things much more than even adults. And I'll say alcoholism addiction is like a train coming. It's like a train, and you hear it from miles away. And the first stop is a girl, like a girlfriend saying, "Do you remember what you did last night? Like, do you remember what you said to me?" And you have no idea. And okay, but you swipe it under the bed, and then the train keeps coming, and the whistle gets louder. And then the next stop, it sounds like your voice being like, "Do you remember what you did at that party last night, man? Like you were a maniac. Do you even remember what happened?" And okay, you brush that under the bed, and then it keeps going, and the train gets even louder. And this time it's your parents saying, you can't drink like that at dinner. This is getting a little crazy. I mean, you're really you got to slow down a little bit. That was a little much. Oh, okay, okay. And then before you know it, the train gets even louder, and that's your first DUI. You thought you could drive, you thought you were under control, but the red and blue lights, and before you know it, you wake up one day and the train hits you. And yeah, you remember all those whistles, but there's so much time and space in between those stops. And before you know, the train hits you. And now you need it. Now something that you enjoyed, or something that you had become a bad habit, or even a little dependent upon, you actually physically and mentally need it. You're fully addicted. And that was the arc. It was fun. I mean, yeah, I could tell you stories that you and I would just laugh. Then it was fun and some consequences. And then it was nothing but consequences. And I needed these substances to get through my day, physically and mentally.
When you talk about that, and again, I've never lived through this, and I think it's beautiful that you have, because we can only connect with people that are struggling if we actually understand what they're going through, and you do. So, Jim, what's crazy is that when we first start going through that, and mine was a different type of path that I went through, but it was kind of cool to be the kid that couldn't remember what they did the night before. Everyone kind of glorified it like you were some sort of demigod, semi-hero, oh, that was kind of cool. You were our entertainment. But did you ever think, because obviously you're in this great physical shape, you love working out, you're probably burning the alcohol through your sweating in the gym and feeling, getting ready for the party that night. Did you ever think that the alcohol, though, could be damaging you from a brain or body perspective that could affect your health?
It was way more vain and way more immature. It wouldn't necessarily speak to me that clearly and that maturely. But there was definitely a knowing that this is going, this is going to hurt, that this is going to destroy me. I don't think I necessarily thought about it of as health, though. I think I thought of it as deeper consequences,
Mm.
deeper consequences, getting in trouble. Um, Maybe accidentally one day, God forbid, hurting somebody or even hurting myself. I don't think I had the maturity to think about my physical body because it was something that I'd learned such control over.
Mm.
I even learned the idea of, okay, if I'm going to drink this much, I can only have 30 grams of carbs, and all that alcohol is going to burn as sugar and as carbohydrates anyway. I just, I was a mad scientist. Yeah, in between fat burners and this kind of nutrition protocol and this training, but then we start drinking at this time, and drinking became almost its own supplement in the weirdest way. The disease had taken that kind of hold. It was just as much as the amount of protein you need, brushing your teeth, what you're training that day. We start drinking at 3 p.m., not 5 p.m. So we're gonna actually go down to zero carbs today. Just the brain, the mind is crazy. It's a superpower, as you know, when channeled the right way. But boy, is it super destructive when you're in my mindset.
So, did you find, because I want to get to the tipping point as well, where we go back to July 14th, but
Well,
did you find that the alcoholism hit you first, or did you notice a decline in your body before that moment hit as well? Because obviously now your savior at that time was your physique. That's what
Yeah.
got you out of the contamination of youth. And now you're the man. What came first? Did you notice a decline and then realize you had a problem in your physique, or was it the physique still going? We know there's a lot of people out there that drink and still look great.
Yeah.
It's hit from the inside out.
It was definitely the inside with a lot more work that had to go into the physique because the physique also then became my mask. So the physique was if I look like this and I take care of myself like this and I'm a good person and I say all the right things and do all the right actions, this is you have to remember, I am an alcoholic and addict in recovery. So there's this voice in you. And excuse my language, but there was this guy in there being like, if I do all of this, then who the fuck are you to tell me what I can do and can't do? I don't come up to you and say, when was the last time you were on a treadmill? You know what I mean? I don't come up to you and say, hey, you're losing your hair. Yeah, I don't come up, I don't there should be I think we have an unwritten agreement here. I am not going to tell you what your flaws are. Don't come up to me and tell me mine, especially when I'm taking care of XYZ. Now, that is not a kind person, is not a good person. It was a self-defense mechanism of we don't talk about what Adam does over here. That so it was way more internal. Now to take care of the body, it was extra cardio and extra sweat sessions. And before it was popular, I mean, nowadays, we know the actual health benefits of saunas and steams. But before it was popular, sitting in the steam, not for health, just to sweat the booze out so my face wasn't as poofy. Because I would retain so much water and have so much inflammation in my face from the alcohol. But if I spent three 20-minute sessions in the sauna on top of the cardio and the training and the carbohydrate manipulation, I can at least make and tan. Or I got to make sure my skin looks good, or you may see that it's a little yellow, or I can at least appear that I'm in great health.
Have you ever heard of an artist called Ren? REN?
No, no.
I'm going to post this in the podcast as well because the voice that you're talking about is an incredible song that he talked about because he went through different, but a mental breakdown where you have the voice on one side saying, I control you. Don't tell me what to do. And the other side saying, I know you're not good for me. How do I get out? It's an incredible song. And I think you'll really resonate with it. I certainly do myself and just a brilliant artist. But because there's so much in your story, Adam, that's brilliant. And again, when I say everybody can learn from it, I'm learning from it right now because either ourselves or someone we're working with or in our family, the more we understand them or ourselves, the more we can do the right things to help them. And we all want to help those we love. What were you doing at this time? Were you married? What job were you doing? Did you have kids? Tell me,
Yeah, July 14th, 2006, I was married. I got married at that time I think we got married in 2002. Um, and my first child was born, and she was 6 months old. And I was vice president of the family business and taking a bigger role. My father was spending a lot more time outside of the office. And I, on the outside, looked like everything was the American dream. The house was paid off, had the cars, had the gorgeous wife, had a baby, had a beautiful family business, was living up to the family name and the family legacy, and everything on the outside looked great, but inside, Dan, I was dying. I was absolutely dying, and I was miserable, and I was constantly scared. I was constantly doubting my choices. Is this who I am? Is this what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life? I'm a lace manufacturer. I never gave myself a chance to do something that I wanted to do. I was born into this thing. I was raised in this thing. But if I ever said no, I would be letting the entire family down. And who does something like that? Who says no to beautiful golden handcuffs if you know you have security and you know you have a 401k and you know you could provide and take care of the people you love, who says no to something like that? And no real connection with God, but fascinated by, is there something here? Is it my grandmother, who was the closest person in my life, had died, and it was my first time actually truly dealing with death. And it made me ask even more questions and missed her terribly. And the drinking was just, and also I really thought, and I like telling people this, I really thought that when I had a child, what it would do, like that my daughter being born would be this saving grace, and that I would love something so much, and I would become so pure from within the inside because I would have such a deeper purpose being a father, that all of these defects of character and all of these addictions and habits and dependencies would just kind of fade away out of this love. And it was the opposite. I loved this creature so much, but I didn't even really understand the responsibility of having a child. I didn't understand baby monitors and baby formula and putting up gates. And I thought it was going to be Disney World and happiness and rainbows and puppies and balloons. And it was even more of a job. And there was no way I could stop then. I had to be even more on. I had to be even more the man. I had to be even more dependable, more accountable, more responsible. This thing is my everything and is counting on me. How could that? So everything I thought was flipped upside down. You know, I really thought this child would be born and I would be, walking on water and purified. And it was the opposite. This is now getting even more real. And to get through these days, I need even more of this stuff. And July 14th, 2006 was the day of the intervention and where it all ended.
Before that day arrived, how was this affecting your relationship with your wife?
It was the darkest period. Um, it was the darkest period in our marriage. We got divorced 20 years later. So let's say 17 years later after that, for different reasons. My recovery being one of them, interestingly enough, but for different reasons, just two people that had grown apart. No infidelity, nothing like, just two people that had grown apart. But at that time in a marriage with a child, it was the darkest hour because what really happened was my in-laws decided that they would watch the baby for a day, and I heard, oh my God, we get to be two adults and we get to just be together and have fun. And our ideas of fun were completely different. And we went to lunch and I start ordering wine. But at that time, I'm taking Ambien to sleep and Xanax for anxiety, and I'm taking painkillers before my workout so I don't feel my injuries. And everything just started to, I was just taking so much stuff. I was living on bodybuilding supplements because my body couldn't even break down real food. So I would constantly be drinking shakes, and my body just started turning on me at that lunch with my wife, and my eyes started like rolling in back of my head. I couldn't control myself, so then I ordered a coffee. She's like, you just ordered a bottle of wine, now you're ordering a coffee. I'm like, I'm just tired. And I start drinking the coffee, and before you know it, it accelerates the stimulants and the amphetamines, and now my eyes are like, I'm zeroed in on her and I'm sweating, so now I'm drinking to calm that down. And I made a complete mess. I just made a mess of that day. And then we finally get home, and I say, I'm going to walk the dogs, Dan, and take our dog out. And within the walk, I just downed 6 beers that we had outside in our fridge in the garage. And she came out maybe 25 minutes later, 25 minutes later, and she saw the 6 beer bottles. And she's like, Adam, 6 beers, like, what is wrong with you? And I lost it. I just lost it, not on her physically, but mentally and emotionally and verbally. And I said, you know what? I'm done. Get somebody better. Get somebody else to buy the house, to get the cars, to be this perfect dad. You know what I mean? You find that perfect person. You know what I mean? And I just went into an alcoholic fit mentally, and I went dark. It was the darkest hour of my life because I had no God. Life had no meaning. Politics are absurd. Sports are rigged. What is the sense of life? What to get a bigger house, to get two more cars, to get more money in the bank account? You know what I mean? I have this little angel. She's not. I'm not feeling what I'm supposed to be feeling. It was this close to suicidal, and I did have thought not of killing myself, but of moving. I had thoughts of moving and disappearing and starting life over from scratch. I was in this alcoholic fit, Dan, for about 2.5 days where I wouldn't even look at my wife. I wouldn't even talk to her. I would walk right by her. I would say hi to the baby. I would go into our guest bedroom. I'd slam the door. I did this for 2 days. And then one day I was driving home, and the strangest thing happened. It was almost like all of that anger and all of that fight and all of that frustration and all that resentment, it just lifted. I can't explain. It just lifted. It was almost like I was possessed by a demon, and all of a sudden I'm driving. I'm like, why was I? Why am I so angry? I didn't even remember what triggered me. Why am I so? What's got me so upset? I drove home that night. I was exhausted, just exhausted from the energy, exhausted from this possession, whatever it was, this alcoholic fit. I fell asleep at the second I got home. So we're talking about like early afternoon, by the way, early afternoon. My wife at that time started planning an intervention, but people still kind of didn't know. Like, does Adam have this thing or not? Is she being a little too much on him? Is she going a little overboard? You know what I mean? Like maybe he's just going through a little bit of a patch, but he seems great. Like we just got a ton of orders from Victoria's Secrets. He was at the gym yesterday. You know what I mean? Like this may be a little bit of a prank phone call here. When I woke up with such anxiety. I can't explain to you what untreated alcoholism and addiction feels like, but I was riddled. I woke up at maybe 11 o'clock at night, 12 o'clock at night, riddled, from passing out early in the afternoon. And I snuck downstairs. I snuck downstairs, put the alarm on, put the alarm off, sneak out to my car where I hide all of my pills. And I took two Xanax and an Ambien and whacked it down with a beer. And she actually looked out the window and saw me in my car doing it. And it was her confirmation. No, we're making the right call. We're making the right call. That night, without any real spiritual connection, I actually said my first prayer, which was it was over my daughter's crib, just saying, like, this has got to stop. Like, God, please help me. This has got to stop. Not knowing what I was asking for, by the way. Not knowing. The very next day was my intervention. The very next day.
I want to read something to you.
Sure.
To this day, it's been 19 years, 4 months, and 18 days. That's 1,011 and 5 days of weeks. 7,081 days. 169,944 hours. That's 10,196,640 minutes and 611,798,400 seconds. Since that day where you had that addiction and intervention that changed your life. A lot of people, sadly, never live. But from that intervention, you've been living and finding who you truly are for 19 years, 4 months, and 18 days from that day to this day. Tell us about the intervention, that moment that led to these incredible, successful, not just numbers. This is moments of life.
Thank you, man. That really hit me right in my heart. It was very painful. I was in a room with people I loved the most. They all had written these beautiful letters that almost sounded the same. Something beautiful about me. Middle paragraph, oh yeah, we know, with some sort of memory of some of my behavior. Do you remember drinking and driving with your nephews? Do you remember falling down on the airplane at your buddy's bachelor party? Do you always, we know. And that kind of hurt because I thought I had them all fooled. I didn't know they really knew. I thought, the disguise was working. and then something really sweet about me again, and then asking me to get help. And that fat kid people pleaser was still in there, and the defiant alcoholic was not really loud. And I just wanted the pain to stop. And I just said, I'll do whatever you want. Just please stop. Like, just stop reading these letters, anything you want. The defiant alcoholic came out about 10 minutes later when the interventionist saw that this was a success and started explaining to me what treatment would look like and that it was 28 days. I'm going, that's a month. Who's going to be Adam Jablin for a month? And I'm kind of arguing with him and trying to figure out what his modalities are. And he's like, okay, how about just 10 days? Like, literally got him to negotiate 10 days. Let's just see if you have this thing. That's what he called it, this thing. 10 days. And finally, so we got him down. I got him down to 10 days, not knowing that this was just a way to get me there. And then Dan, I wish you could have been there. I'm somewhat of an educated man. I'm charismatic. I'm very personable. I thrive on personal connection. And I couldn't understand two words in the English language. I remember saying, okay, when are we going to do this? Now it's July, just so you know. I'm thinking, January, February in Florida is beautiful. It's why people move down here. It's like, the weather's, it's not humid. It's about 75, 80. It's the holidays. We could tell people I took time. I'm with the baby. We traveled here. I'm always thinking about the external world. And I'm like, okay, so when are you going to do this? I'm ready to tell him when I think we should do it. I think January, February is the perfect time to do this. And he goes, right now. And I couldn't understand him. I'm like, what do you mean right now? He said, right now. And I was like, right now, right now? He's like, right now. I'm like, I'm looking at him, I'm like, right now? Like right now? Or like right now? Like now? Now? Right now. I mean, it was like a ping pong match. They were like, I couldn't process what he was saying. He's like, we have your bags packed in the car. We're ready to take you right now. All of my excuses came out. Who's going to walk the dog? Who's going to take care of this for the family business? Who's everything? And they're like, we got it covered. This is your time. And that was a very humbling moment when everybody that you love in your life is actually looking at you saying, we don't need you in your life. Everything that you do, we got it covered. We need you to go. That was a very humbling moment. And that's when the journey to sobriety began. And that's really when the spiritual connection began and the internal healing began. And that's the journey I've been on for the last 19 years. Layer after layer of the onion.
Those 10 days turned into how many days in the end?
The 10 days were turned into 28 days. The 10 days turned into 28 days. And they had me. There were a few exercises that I went through that I'm happy to share with you on the podcast that really opened me up from the inside out.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah. One was, well, the first day I get there, I meet my counselor, who is a really sweet, loving man that I've stayed in touch with all these people. And, point blank, he asks me, do I think I'm an alcoholic? And I was like, whoa, yeah, yo, take it easy. Like, take it easy. That's a little extreme, don't you think? An alcoholic. And he goes, well, let me ask you something. I'm like, sure, ask me anything. Now you have to understand, I went in with the idea that I have 10 days to show all of these doctors, counselors, therapists, physicians. I have 10 days to show them that I am the most dedicated, disciplined, consistent patient they've ever seen. And within 3 or 4 days, they're going to be like, there's nothing wrong with this guy. This guy's a machine. You know what I mean? It must be his family. It must be his family business. It must be his wife. I'm ready to flip this thing. They have no idea who they put in this institution. I'm the David Goggins of rehab. Yeah, I go in without knowing who David Goggins is at that time, but I'm going in with that mindset. I'm going in with like, I'm going to show you who you have here. So I know I have to be honest. I know I have to be thorough. I have to be the guy. So I'm going to be honest. And he goes, let me ask you a question. I'm like, you can ask me anything. He goes, have you ever woken up in the morning and swore to yourself that you're not going to drink that day, but you ended up drinking anyway? And I was like, all the time, all the time, every day almost. He goes, okay, great. It was great. Thank you for your honesty. He goes, now let me ask you this. Did you ever say to yourself, okay, I'll have a few drinks, but I'll have only two or three, but once you start, you can't stop. And I looked at him, his name is Brent, and I'm like, every time I go in with the mentality, I'll have one, two, three, and then once I have one, I'm off to the races. He goes, okay, so let me put this together. He goes, if you say that you're not going to drink that day, you swear to yourself, you swear to God, you swear on your child that you're not going to drink that day, but you end up drinking anyway, but you make a deal with yourself that when you do drink, you'll only have one or two, but once you have one, you can't stop. He goes, would you say you were powerless? And then it was
Mm-hmm.
his rookie to my bishop, his his queen to my pawn. Like it was checkmate. It was I couldn't bullshit my way out of this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, yeah, I guess I'm powerless. I guess I'm powerless over this thing. He goes, okay. He goes, would you say your life is unmanageable? So I thought about that for a second. I sat there and I thought, I'm like, well, we just got this major program for Victoria's Secrets. Both cars are paid off. The house is fully paid off. I got a beautiful daughter, a wonderful, beautiful wife at home. I'm going through a checklist and he's looking at me like I'm crazy. Now I am not seeing myself from the outside, right? And all of a sudden he slams on the table, loud as can be. He goes, Adam, he sees me think, Adam, you're in rehab. And all of a sudden I notice I'm wearing slippers. There's crayons on the table. I'm in a medical outfit, and I'm sitting here thinking, is my life unmanageable? That's how much denial I had. That's the delusion I was under. I could be in a rehab facility in pajamas and slippers with crayons on the table, asking myself, is my life unmanageable? That's the guy I was capped in denial. And I had all of these moments, a lecture, healthy spirituality versus unhealthy spirituality, that you could see healthy spirituality. It's what you have. It's someone's shining in the eyes. It's easy to find their words. There's a feeling of celebration around them. You can also see unhealthy spirituality. There's a lack of eye contact. The person doesn't seem to find their words. There's a lot of there's a vibration around them, but it almost feels like they're hiding something or they're lying about something. But then he started teaching spirituality the way you and I would talk about the gym. They were saying, you could get healthy spirituality by doing these healthy principles, living these healthy lives, and explaining it like almost like a nutrition program. And I thought this guy was talking right to me. I meet this guy named Father Ron Bersha, who is a Catholic priest. I'm a Jew from Jersey. You know what I mean? I'm sitting with a Catholic priest. First question he asked me is, do you believe in God? I know what a priest wants to hear. I'm like, oh, of course. I just start giving him some, I take out chairs for old ladies and I have very good manners. And he's like, okay, law of attraction. And he's like, okay, okay. And he asks me to stick my arm out. So I do. And he touches my arm like that. And he goes, Adam, do you see what I did there? And then I look at my arm. I look at the father. I look at my arm like, Father, I'm sorry, I don't see anything. And he just nods his head and he touches me again. And he goes, do you see what I did that time? I look at my arm. I look at the father. I look at my arm. And I'm feeling very insecure and weird. So I start using humor. I'm like, Father, I'm Jewish. Maybe there's a disconnect. He giggles. He touches me again. He goes, do you see what I did that time? I'm staring at my arm. Finally, I'm like, Father, I heard about you guys and little boys, okay? He laughs. He turns the lights off. His office goes pitch black, and he takes a UV light out. And on the UV light, you could see all of his purple fingerprints glowing on me. Just these purple fingerprints glowing on me from the UV light. And he goes, Adam, do you believe there's a power all around you that you can't see, taste, touch, none of the five basic senses, that has been guiding you, protecting you, and brought you to me here today? And I'm staring at these purple fingerprints, Dan. I'm like, Father, I can believe. I can believe. He turned the lights on, they vanish. And I'm like, do it again. Do it again. And he does it again. But this Catholic priest unplugged me from the matrix. And I start to understand that there was this higher power. There was this creator. This was the word I would use, God. But whatever it is to each person, there is this unbelievable consciousness all around us. Lesson after lesson was like that. And the final day, I had to say my story in front of these 30, 35 maniac alcoholic addicts who are supposed to be my friends, a couple of famous people. But these guys are out of their minds. You know what I mean? And I say my story, very similar to what you and I went through earlier. And they all stand up and start applauding and woo. I'm like, what is going on? And everybody can relate to me. Oh my God, I was the skinny kid. You have no idea. Oh, I went to Ohio State. You went to Arizona State. Oh my God, I had a fake. Everybody could relate to me. I'm like, oh my God, this is not good. This is not good. And this was day 9. I had my spiritual experience, which for me came in the form of a panic attack. My blood pressure shot way over 180. I was freaking out because everything they said made sense. Everything they said was real. And my ego was dying because it was clinging on. It was clinging on. And I was at the nurse's station and I'm asking for a Xanax or a Winstrol or something to calm me down. And they're like, no, this is your moment. You may have admitted you were an alcoholic and addict, but you're accepting it now. And I remember thinking, what am I going to tell my wife? Like, what am I going to tell my wife? They're like, don't worry. They call me down. I breathe in a paper bag. They call me down. I run to the phone. I call my wife. I'm not even realizing what time. It's 5 in the morning. And she's like, is everything okay? She has no idea what's going on in a rehab center. She thinks I got stabbed or something. I'm like, oh, everything's fine. Everything's fine. I said, are you sitting down? She said, sitting down. She's like, you woke me up. You woke the baby up. Like, what's going on? I'm like, I really have bad news. I have really bad news. She's like, what? What is it? I go, I'm an alcoholic and an addict, and I have to stay here. I have to stay. Dead silence. And then all of a sudden I heard, ha 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 ha, I was never going to come pick you up. I was never going to come pick you up. Don't you see it's you? It's Adam. It's Adam this and Adam that. Adam needs to go to the gym and Adam needs to take care of the family business and Adam needs his tequila and Adam needs to do his cardio and Adam. And something happened to me, which is called the parallel process. Many people have experienced this, but it's almost like you see two of you, almost like you're watching a movie. It's actually really a blessing, but it is quite bizarre. And I saw one of me that picked up the phone, and it was just this angry, defiant, mean alcoholic act that just said, okay, listen, bitch, get in the car, get the divorce papers ready, come pick me up. I've had it. Just this, I'm right, you're wrong jerk. And there was this other guy. And I didn't know if he had to do about poverty. I didn't know if he had to be baptized. I didn't know if he had to wear a yarmulke. I didn't know if he had to wear robes. But I knew he was sober. And I jumped into that guy with both feet and I never looked back. I never looked back. And that was the moment.
What a beautiful, beautiful experience. And I'm so happy that you went through it. Again, we look at things that we went through in life and people go, I'm so sorry you went through that. And I look at it, Adam, and say, I'm so happy you went through that because
Yeah.
you wouldn't be the man you are today and having the influence in the way that you are, which is absolutely dynamic. So congratulations. And I know there'll be so many people that will listen to this, either in denial or recognizing similar patterns in their partner. But the only person ultimately that can change it is, in your case, Adam, it was Adam. And people can push you, they can hold you accountable, but nobody can do the work for you. But look at the glorious side you're at now, because I see it. You can't fake what you do today. And I see it in your eyes, I see it in your posts, I see it in the way you speak. You have never been the man that you are today through all the glory, all the fun, all the celebrations and partying. There's something very special, and that's because you've become the real you, the authentic you, and you live it. How was it going home?
How's it going now?
No, how was it going home?
Oh, wow. So it was, there's a scene in the movie The Matrix where Neo, uh, Keanu Reeves' character, comes back into the Matrix after being trained by Morpheus for the first time. It's his first time actually going back into the Matrix, and It's the same world he knew, but he's completely different. And everything is just strange. That's the only way I know how to describe it. I was back into the real world, but I was different and everything was strange, even to the what kind of mouthwash I could use. I couldn't use Listerine anymore because there was alcohol and that could trigger something. I couldn't go to these restaurants because those were the restaurants that I used to drink at. I really couldn't associate with these friends because these were the friends that I really partied hard with. In recovery, you'll hear people, places, and things, but it's real. Everything was the same and everything was new. So it's almost as if you're in your body now. And if you're a righty, you actually just have to start using your left hand. You're still you, but everything is just new. And everything just felt foreign. But one day at a time, taking my recovery as serious as a heart attack, because it was, I started to get more comfortable and I started to build different community around me. And I started to fall in love with different types of people. And I started reading different types of literature and feeding my mind with different types of even holier and heaven and higher ways of thinking. Um, and I looked crazy in the beginning. I know it. I remember my former wife. I came home day one, and she came out, and it was weird being at home. And day one, she sees me on my knees saying a prayer before bed, and I mean, I could just feel it. And she was like, "Oh, great," you know what I mean? Like 30 days ago, tequila drinking maniac, Vince Vaughn kind of, and now he's this guy. But one day at a time, little by slowly, I'll never forget about 8 months later, we had friends that's child was very, very sick and critical condition. It was very serious. And she came up to me earnestly and said, "Will you please say a prayer for this girl?" And I said, "Yeah, of course." I said, "But honey, you can pray too." She goes, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, I know I can." She goes, "But you seem more connected to him. This is working for you." Now, that took time. That took time for it to look like, okay, now he thinks he's this person. Like now, and to not play into the noise and just say, this is who I am now, and this is how I have to live, and this is how I have to be. And I may get teased and I may get judged, and I may not feel like I'm in the in crowd anymore, but this is how I have to live my life. And then slowly the tides turned. And whatever I was on my way of finding, and even sometimes found, other people wanted. And that has been the cycle through the last 19 years. The work has never stopped. I've never been able to stop the work. But upon doing the work and upon really integrating certain attributes in my life, eventually things turn and people want what I've discovered. And then it's my job to give that away.
I love the power of mindset because that's what you effectively created, where you were more powerful and you are more powerful than anything that can come in and contaminate you. Because the ability to say no to anything comes from the mindset of strength of it's not going to serve me or it could damage me. How long did it take before you could be in the environment of alcohol? And again, like you said, you're recovering. There'll always be the potential. How do you face that now compared to when you first came out of recovery? And were you able to be in the environment and say no, or was it something you had to avoid to build that strength?
In the beginning, I avoided it when I could, unless there were certain obligations that I had to be there. Um, and now it's as if I have a warm blanket over me at all times and I have a protection. My mindset is I'd like to make sure because I need to be authentic and I really respect you and your audience. My mindset is definitely attached to a spiritual power. I need a best friend, a creator, and a, a a source of power that I actually don't have on my own. I don't believe I have it on my own. And it's within me, but it's within you, and it's within everything. And so my mindset, I wanted to be like my dad, and I wanted to be like Michael Jordan, and I wanted to be like Kobe. But to be honest, that killer assassin mindset is not how I was created. Um, I had to realize who I was, and I'm much more of a Phil Jackson, let's say, guy in sports, if you need to use those analogies, where there's something deeper going on. And I know when to keep my athletes on the court, and I know where to call a timeout. I know how to build camaraderie, and I know how to build connection and community. I always wanted to be something that I wasn't. I wanted to be Superman. I wanted to be Jordan. I wanted to be my dad. I wanted to be Rambo. I wanted to be Rocky. I wanted to be Commando, but I'm not. I'm just not. I I was trying to be something I wasn't. And when I was able to connect this mindset with a spiritual way of life, is when I allowed me to finally be me. That's when it happened, And trust me, by the way, everyone I just talked about are still my heroes. They're still my heroes. I don't watch sports looking for who the nicest guy is. You know what I mean? Jordan's still my favorite athlete. My dad is still my guy. But I don't have that. I'm not the assassin. I'm not the killer. I'm not the Mamba mentality. I may be the Mamba mentality in a spiritual way, but I need time for meditation, and I need time to journal, and I need time for connection, and I need breaks, and I need to be kind. I need to be kind, and I need to feel like I go to bed every night putting my head on the pillow, feeling like I treated all of God's children the way he wanted me to, and not, oh, that guy's never going to get on the court with me again. He doesn't know who he effed with. Yeah, I'm just not that person.
Yeah, I look at it because, again, coming from a sports background and an athletic background, my heroes were the superstar, right? The
Hmm.
main player. I wanted to be the lead. And yet, listening to you, you're far greater than Superman. I'm not saying that because you're sitting here,
Thank you.
because everyone has a potential downfall, whether it's kryptonite, whether it's the Achilles heel for Achilles, whatever it was. I want to ask you this question. Are you happy?
Yes. But my happiness is fleeting. Um, the way it's very true what I'm about to tell you. So I've had to learn this lesson repeatedly over and over, and I'm ashamed to actually tell you that. I wish I could tell you I learned it once and I learned it, but it's been a lesson that God keeps saying, okay, you don't get it. Happiness really is fleeting. It could be the new car, the new relationship, the new contract, the new client, but then eventually that new car just becomes your car. And the new client, yeah, you're used to the new client. And then the new level you achieved in business, now there's another level. And it's fleeting, and it lasts sometimes 6 seconds, 6 minutes. You know, um, I do have a joy in my life. I do have a joy in my life that really comes from my heart. But when I go on that happiness trail, because I love this that feel like I love this accomplishment. I go on this seesaw of life where there's another mountain to climb, there's another obstacle to go, there's another level, there's another, and sometimes I hear that competitive side of me, and then that competitive side gets into a comparing side of me, and well, that person's doing this, and this thinking is not healthy for me. It's not that I shouldn't be inspired by others or to do great things, because I expect great things of myself. But when I'm chasing that happiness, it's like chasing the feeling I had when I was drinking and drugging. And I've had to learn that in sobriety more than I want to share with you there, more than I'd like to tell you. Um, shamefully, shamefully. It's a lesson that I hope I've learned it. I hope the next speaking gig and the next book deal is not this flashy thing. I hope it doesn't go get me all excited and I need a bigger stage and I need more validation. It's not healthy for me.
Mm.
Um, because I have the disease of more.
It's beautiful how everything is so individualized
Yeah.
because, I work on the philosophy of every level has its own devil.
Yeah, ain't
And,
that the truth? That's great.
but the devil is the lesson, not the glory. So if I want to overcome and rise to the higher level, it's not about what I attain, it's about what I learn, which is a form of attainment. And then there's
Mm,
the three laws of nature. Whatever you chase runs away, whatever you fight grows stronger, and whatever you resist persists. And I love that because when you can overcome the need to chase, the need to fight, the need to resist, is when you find peace. This is for me.
mm,
This is my thing. And when I find peace, I now have, for me, eternal happiness. It doesn't mean to say that I don't have competitive edge. I'm not looking for, things that are going to satisfy who I am, my authentic self, because I love competition, but the competition's within me, not against. So if someone beats me, that's my yardstick. That's not my enemy. It's showing there's more. So I love how you break down. We're all unique, and what works for one doesn't necessarily work for everybody.
yeah.
What because I know there's so many things that you talk about. I know you talk about the book, The Road Less Traveled.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
love the opening line, life
Yeah.
is tough. Take us through the advice that you would give to everybody. And this isn't just recovering. We're all suffering in life until we awaken to suffering. What's your program? What is it that you share? Because I know you speak to so many people. Take us through some of the philosophies of reality that you love to share and speak about.
Yeah. Well, I truly feel that everybody is on what Joseph Campbell called this hero's journey. And everybody is the hero within their own story. And I think there are certain modalities that are universal because we all go through these trials and tribulations. The stories can look very different, as different as Harry Potter looks to the Matrix and the Wizard of Oz looks to Superman. I mean, but within these stories, there are these themes that we all go through, and it could be a hard childhood. And coming out, it could be alcoholism and addiction, but there are these beautiful lessons. And I think all of us are that peace you were talking about, that happiness, that happiness that you get from the peace is, I think, what everybody in the world is looking for. Every single person. It's dressed up in a thousand different disguises and masks, but everyone's just looking for that feeling. And so a lot of the exercises I do are to produce that liberation. And it's liberation from self. It's a liberation from self, from that noise, from the bedevilments in your head, just the bedevilments that are just constantly gnawing at you. And one of the things that has seemed to land for every single person I've worked with is to please not confuse love and approval. If there was one thing I would always want to give one person, it's do not confuse love and approval. And I used to be confused about this one a lot. And I used to think over and over, I'm sure you heard it earlier, that if I had your approval, if I had that was a form of love. And they're two totally different things. So when I'm speaking to groups or clients and they really want to see it, I tell them with my children. I have a 19-year-old daughter and I have a 15-year-old son, and they're a parent's love. There's nothing like it. There's just nothing like it. And I said, I will always, always love my kids. You always love my kids. But if you think I'm going to approve of every single thing they do, you're out of their mind. You're out of their mind. And I taught that kids to my kids early, early on. Don't ever think that if I don't approve of something, that that means I don't love you. I love you unconditionally, unconditionally. You know what I mean? That means there's no condition. That means if you kill somebody, I love you. I may not approve, and it seems so easy, but believe it or not, when you're in this external world, it's very easy to confuse. Social media has mastered it. They mastered if you get this many likes, if you get this much, it's feeding that. They'll tell you the serotonin and the oxytocin. Look, you're feeling love. That's it, and it's not. I like his approval. I approve. It's approval. Don't confuse it. And that's one that I wish everybody could just put in their heart. Put in their heart. You actually may approve. I mean, we could go to something that splits this entire world. You could actually approve of what Donald Trump does in a certain situation and not love him. You know what I mean? And believe it or not, you could be a Republican and you could actually love him and not approve of something. You're allowed to say, I love this guy. I really don't like what he's doing with sending so many people, um, you know, with back to their countries. I really don't approve of that. But I love this guy, or vice versa. You know what I mean? But people confuse them, and it trips you up.
Yeah, I remember when I was performing on the West End back in London, and I thought if I just get the lead character, if I can just play, if I can get that role as the lead character, I'll be happy for the rest of my life. And when I got the lead role, I suddenly felt more empty than I did when I was chasing it.
Yeah,
Because what was missing wasn't the satisfaction of the role or thinking that everyone's going to then adore me because now I'm the lead and signing autographs every day. It actually revealed the hole that was missing that had to take a different line of work to find to fill it in. If anything, it actually made the hole bigger because now I couldn't trust the people that like me were there for me. It was because of what I was doing, because if I wasn't doing it, they weren't there. And it's fascinating when you talk about love and approval are two different things. I get it 100%. And as a coach, I was a really tough coach. People say, why are you so tough on your kids? I said, because I love them. And
yeah,
we had unprecedented success that along the way I look at it and say, I wish I had have maybe given more love, but I was so driven on the journey and their success, which was also my success. But I did it because I loved them. It
a
wasn't
hundred
because,
percent,
yeah, it was tough.
100%. And I believe, you know, I believe that that is love. Um, and of course, we could always, I think the past is there for us to take a look back and say, not to beat ourselves up, but to say what I could do better moving forward, right?
For
But
sure.
that is that, you being hard on them is love. I remember hearing that, I think it was in the Michael Jordan documentary, but I believe Doug Collins said, the greatest gift a coach can do is coach his player. Like the biggest amount of love and respect a coach can do is coach his player and coach him hard. Because you believe that you can make them gonna have them rise to their potential.
Right. 100%. It was,
Yeah.
I saw more in them than they saw. Never as much as the parent saw, because the parent was often in unrealistic, right? They're the superstar. They should. I could look at it and say, where are you going to shine? I need to make you amazing in that area. Even though your focus is you want to be the Messi, you want to be Lionel Messi, but you're a defender and you'll be a better defender than Messi would be a defender. How do we tap into you? But along the way, obviously, you also, again, I was learning and I would be a better coach today than I was back then. You talk about the importance of fitness in your life back when you were growing up. It was your escape from the fat kid to the glory boy, if I can use that word, right? Where
Yeah.
everything was great, it was hiding. But I know fitness is still a huge part of your life now. And we're talking about fitness for health, lifting weights. It still has that um, neurochemical release. It still has the endorphins. It still has the neurons that were awake when you were doing it. What, or why I should say, is fitness still so important to you?
Oh, fitness is one of my greatest loves, true love. It's one of my greatest teachers. It humbles me. It makes me better. It it truly gives me every obstacle that I could ever need or want. It's there for me anytime I need it. It's a way of building strength internally and externally. It's a way that I honor this temple that God gave me. I have one look at so many different ideas and philosophies when it comes to religion and spirituality, but I have one turn here as Adam Jablin. Now, maybe I have multiple different. I may have multiple different, but I have one, and I should honor and respect the temple and the body that I've been giving, and just like the way people love their cars, and take care of their cars. And it's also not just for the external physicality rewards, and not just for the internal fortitude. I've also found it a great way to find peace, to calm the noise down, and to also connect. So if you're exercising with somebody and you're training with somebody, it's some of my best friends have been training partners, because there's so much that goes on. And now that I'm training with my boy, and it's like a dream come true, and I am not pushing it on him at all. He's pushing me, and he knows. I thought I knew bodybuilding. He knows bodybuilding back and forth, and I mean, I think I screwed up. I said, I think Dorian Yates won 5 Mr. Olympias. No, he won 6. Yeah, I mean, I was like, right, I remember. Yeah, and I think I thought Lee Haney had won 8. He said, no, he won 7. And but it's his love, and we're bonding in a way, um, by throwing weight around and feeling good and getting, like you said, those endorphins and the oxytocin, the serotonin, all of that. But it it's truly been one of my greatest friends, and it's a source I can always tap into. I may not be able to do the same things I used to do when I was younger, but it's still there.
Yeah, I'm a huge believer in exercise for life. Like you said,
Yeah.
it's loving your body is taking care of it. And if
Yes.
you don't love your body and you abuse it, it won't sustain you in the way that it should. And it really is the center of our universe. And when I say center of our universe, I'm talking about from the ability to move, to do things in life. Because even those that aren't spiritual, even those that aren't athletic or into it, or those that are abusing drugs, they can still move until it shuts down. And once it shuts down, now everything becomes confined and you become limited. But if you take care of it and add all the other ingredients that you've now added to your life, which for me, looking at you, is serving. You serve people, whereas before you used to serve yourself.
Yes.
Go in there, you impact people, whereas before people impacted you. So their words would either impact you in a positive or a negative way. But if you continue to take care of your body, and we know when you talk about, I've only got one life for Adam Jablin, we know that movement, incorporating balance, mobility, agility, strength, stamina, endurance, adds 8 quality years to your life. This is proven. I'm sharing this with you. I'm sure you probably know this already, but
I did not know that.
it's proven scientifically and tested and researched and following groups. 8 years of quality living life, not in a hospital bed, keeping you alive. Why wouldn't you want to invest in that? Because there's a great saying, people spend 70% of their life giving up their health to pursue money, and the last 30% of their life spending all their money to try and get health.
That's exactly right.
And you can have both. It's just the discipline of time. There's so much more I'd love to talk to you about, and I'd love for you to come back on here and get now into the next part of the messages you give, because like I said at the beginning, children, adults, parents, grandparents, they can all learn from self-love, which is not selfish. But I'd love you to finish with what would be one message that you would like to leave with everybody that would also be your legacy when you're no longer here?
Wow, that would also be my legacy. I believe that all of us go through a tunnel. And the reason I say a tunnel is that there's a light at the end. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. And I believe once you come through that tunnel, once we all go through that tunnel and we all go through that transformation, I believe it's our duty and it's our responsibility to take those lessons and pass it on to just at least one other person. Because I really believe in the end it is all about love. And it is love thy brother as thyself. Meaning, if I don't love myself, you're gonna see the way I treat you. You're gonna see it in every and I so it's the message really is just respect this beautiful journey of life. Just respect it. Play full out. Enjoy it. And know through that dark tunnel there's a light. And I believe it's our job and responsibility to take those lessons through that tunnel and pass them on for the next person that's about to go through that tunnel. And then we just all live in this beautiful cycle. There are things that I can learn from you for what you've gone through, and vice versa. And when you do that, it becomes a dance rather than you're trudging. You're trudging, you're gritting, you're fighting. It becomes like a dance. Oh, I remember when Dan taught me this. I can get to this doing XYZ, and so it's that message of passing it on.
That's beautiful. I know there'll be a lot of people that'll be reaching out. I will put all the links in the podcast, but just tell us, where's the best place for people to reach out to you?
Yeah, on any platform, Adam Jablin, from Instagram to adamjablin.com, and we will always get back to you within 24 hours, no matter what. No matter what.
That's beautiful. Adam, I so appreciate you sharing the most valuable thing you have in life, which is time with me. And to everybody else that's sharing their time listening, I love your journey. I love what you're doing. I still feel that you're still starting your journey. There's so much more that you're going to achieve and for other people. And I'm so thankful for the journey you've been through, because without it, you wouldn't be you. Thank you so much for joining me here today on Born Superhuman. And I look forward to continuing this conversation.
Thank you. And it's been an honor and a privilege.
Thank you.